1993, in the Philippines, two students, Eileen Sarmenta and Alan Gomez, were kidnapped and brutally assaulted. 8 perpetrators not only assaulted the two victims, but also mercilessly murdered them, discarding their bodies by the roadside and in a sugarcane field. Notably, the mastermind behind this heinous crime was none other than Antonio Sanchez, the mayor of Calauan. Believe it or not, power and authority deluded him into thinking he could escape justice. The case caused a public uproar and media frenzy, serving as a painful wake-up call for Philippine society. This video will reveal dark secrets and heartbreaking stories you've never heard before. Like and subscribe to explore the story with us. Setting of the crime: Calauan, a small peaceful town in Laguna, Philippines. Its vast rice fields and fresh air once symbolized tranquility, but the crime forever changed its image. On June 28, 1993, after a long day at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Eileen Sarmenta and Alan Gomez decided to visit a nearby mall to relax and chat. Eileen, a talented agriculture student just months away from graduation, and Alan, her close friend in the same field, had no idea the evening would become an unforgettable nightmare. As Alan got into the driver's seat of his white van and Eileen prepared to close the passenger door, an ambulance suddenly pulled up beside them. 7 men jumped out of the ambulance, 2 of them armed. They quickly approached, leaving Eileen and Alan in shock and confusion. The 2 were forcefully dragged into the back of the ambulance, tied up and gagged. The entire ordeal took less than a minute. The culprits then drove Alan's van behind the ambulance, leaving the mall. The group had been tailing Eileen all day under Sanchez's orders. Failing to find her at the campus, they shifted to the mall, a popular spot for students, and struck as soon as they spotted her. Their plan extended beyond abduction. For Sanchez, a powerful mayor, Eileen was the special gift he demanded to satisfy his depraved desires. About half an hour later, the convoy stopped in front of a large iron gate, leading to a vast estate secured with barbed wire. From the luxurious mansion, Antonio Sanchez emerged in a pristine white tennis outfit. Sanchez ordered Alan to be confined in a dark room while Eileen was brought inside the mansion. The estate was not only Sanchez's retreat from political pressures, but also a secret venue for his illicit activities. Born on August 10, 1949, Antonio Sanchez epitomized power as the mayor of Calauan. Under the guise of a devout and charitable man, Sanchez was a despotic ruler overseeing illegal operations and commanding a private militia to consolidate his influence. Although once removed from office, Sanchez regained his mayoral seat in 1988 and quickly turned it into a haven for corruption and crime. Sanchez's signature mop-like hairstyle was often mocked by locals, but it did not diminish the fear he instilled in Calauan, where his control was absolute. In a televised interview, Antonio Sanchez shocked the nation by openly admitting to having multiple girlfriends and mistresses, despite his wife often accompanying him in public. Ironically, Sanchez frequently praised the Virgin Mary on national television and participated in charitable activities to mask his moral decay. In the summer of 1993, Eileen interviewed Sanchez for a university article. Her beauty and intelligence immediately caught his attention. This encounter set the stage for the harrowing ordeal Eileen would later endure. Returning to that fateful night, Eileen was dragged before Sanchez. Smiling in satisfaction, he turned to ask his subordinates about Alan. A henchman replied that they had to take both to avoid complications since they were together. Sanchez nodded and pulled Eileen into the mansion, slamming the door shut. Inside the mansion, Sanchez forced Eileen to kneel. He circled her, his eyes filled with malice, like a predator savoring its prey. What happened next was horrifying. Eileen was brutally assaulted. The more she resisted, the more Sanchez's actions became grotesque. After satisfying his twisted desires, Sanchez called in his accomplices, who continued to abuse Eileen until she completely lost consciousness. Once they were done, the group turned to the adjacent room and began torturing Alan using the butt of a gun. Near dawn, Sanchez instructed his accomplices to load both Eileen and Alan into Alan's van, intending to erase all traces of their crimes. Eileen, utterly exhausted, was thrown into the back of the van like an object. Alan, covered in blood and wounds, was also tossed in alongside her. The convoy left the estate, driving deep into a dirt road that led to an expansive sugarcane field, where Sanchez's plan for disposal unfolded. In the middle of the field, the vehicle stopped. One accomplice dragged Eileen out of the van, while Alan was pinned to the ground, too weak to resist. One of the men coldly drew a pistol, aimed it directly at Eileen's head, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the field as Alan screamed in despair. Despite his struggles, Alan couldn't escape the inevitable. Alan's life ended with 2 gunshots, one to the head and one to the back. To avoid detection, the group left Eileen's body in the sugarcane field and dumped Alan's body on the roadside during their return to Sanchez's estate. Early on June 29, 1993, around 6:30 a.m., Deputy Police Chief Georgie and 4 officers, Ore, Liz, Vincent, and Zorro, conducted a special patrol on the deserted roads of Calawan. They were ostensibly on a mission to apprehend a notorious drug trafficker. While driving along a remote stretch of road, the headlights illuminated an unusual object lying by the roadside. Georgie ordered the vehicle to stop for inspection. Upon closer inspection, they were horrified to discover it was the lifeless body of Alan Gomez. He had been shot twice, once in the head and once in the back, his blood soaking the ground. Alan's body showed signs of severe beating before his death, with visible bruises and bloodstains that revealed a brutal assault. Around the same time, another officer, Boy, patrolling a nearby area, reported finding Alan's van abandoned in the sugarcane field. Inside the van, Boy found Eileen Sarmenta's body, shot point blank in the face. Her body bore numerous signs of torture and horrific abuse. Georgie and his team quickly secured the crime scenes and transported the van to the police station. They reported the incidents to their superiors and informed the victims' families to identify the bodies. News of the crime spread rapidly. The night before, Eileen's roommate had reported her absence to the dorm supervisor, while Alan's parents also reported their son's disappearance. After identification, the victims' families confirmed that the bodies were those of Eileen Sarmenta and Alan Gomez. Eileen was known as a well-behaved and diligent student, making her unexplained absence a cause for concern among friends. During the autopsy, Eileen's shirt was found pulled up to her shoulders, her pants missing, but her favorite white sneakers remained intact. A dirty cloth had been stuffed into Eileen's mouth, and her body bore burns from a chemical acid. These marks indicated the extreme torture she endured before being killed. Alan Gomez was shot at close range, with bullet wounds to his head and back. His body exhibited injuries from severe beatings prior to his death. According to the forensic report, although Eileen had been dead for several hours before discovery, her body still exhibited post-mortem fluid discharge, clear evidence of assault just before her murder. The gruesome details of the crime immediately attracted the attention of the Philippines National Bureau of Investigation, NBI, which dispatched agents to Calawan to assist local authorities. In 1993, the Philippines had yet to adopt DNA technology for criminal investigations, complicating efforts to identify the origins of the fluids found on Eileen's body. However, ballistic analysis of shell casings found near Alan's body revealed they were from a rifle commonly used by police forces. The rifle was registered under the name of Officer Liz, who was part of Deputy Chief Georgie's team during the anti-drug operation on that day. Metallic fragments found on Eileen's face matched the markings on the shell casing, indicating this rifle was the murder weapon. On June 29th, an unusual event occurred. Ore turned in Liz's rifle without explaining why. This raised suspicions about the connection between the two. Both Ore and Liz became prime suspects. However, with no direct evidence proving Liz's involvement, the police withheld this information while continuing their investigation discreetly. The NBI closely monitored the two suspects, but Ore vanished unexpectedly. A few days later, Liz and his brother Boy, who had discovered Eileen's body, unexpectedly surrendered at the police station. Both arrived accompanied by Mayor Antonio Sanchez. Sanchez's presence added complexity to the case and sparked significant public suspicion. Later revelations explained Sanchez's action. He had used his power to coerce the two subordinates into confessing, steering the case in his favor and attempting to expedite the cleanup. In their initial statements, Liz and Boy admitted to killing the two students, but claimed they acted under someone else's orders. When asked about the mastermind, they remained silent, stating only that they were terrified and had no choice. Deputy Chief Georgie seemed to believe their confession and pushed to close the case. However, NBI Chief Cano doubted Liz and Boy's confessions. He suspected a powerful figure orchestrating the entire crime. Cano focused his investigation on the peculiar links between Sanchez and the crime, especially given Sanchez's private estate's proximity to the crime scenes and mounting evidence against him. A pair of Eileen's shorts was found on a highway far from the sugarcane field, a clue provided by Sanchez's driver. A shocking revelation was Sanchez's presence when Liz and Boy surrendered at the police station, deepening suspicions of his role in covering up the truth. NBI investigators delved further into Sanchez's connection to the victims, discovering that Eileen had previously interviewed Sanchez for a university article. During NBI interrogation, Sanchez initially feigned ignorance, claiming he couldn't remember his whereabouts on June 28th. He later changed his statement, asserting that he spent the evening taking his child to his mistress's house, dining in San Pablo City, and returning to the mistress's residence around 10 p.m. Sanchez claimed he stayed there for breakfast and lunch the following day, presenting a seemingly perfect alibi, but one riddled with suspicion. Sanchez's hasty and consistent deflection of blame heightened investigators' doubts. They suspected he was deliberately misleading them. On August 10th, Ore, a previously missing suspect, was apprehended at a large flea market in Manila by NBI agents. Under interrogation, Ore provided detailed accounts of his involvement in the crime, from driving the ambulance to witnessing the brutal acts by all perpetrators. Deputy Chief Georgie and officers Vincent and Zorro were also summoned. Under significant pressure, Vincent became the next to provide testimony. On August 13th, Antonio Sanchez was formally arrested based on Ore and Vincent's statements, along with increasingly clear evidence against him. Ore revealed that on June 28th, Deputy Chief Georgie and he had been given a special assignment by Sanchez to procure the special gift the mayor had requested. The ambulance driven by Ore picked up officers Vincent, Zorro, and Liz before heading to the mall where Eileen and Alan were located. Ore described how the group stopped multiple times along the way to discuss their plan thoroughly. Around 7 p.m., they were ordered to return when the initial target was not found. At a gas station in the city, they picked up Boy, a man named Bob Pitt, and Sanchez's nephew. At this point, Liz revealed the true purpose of their mission: to abduct Eileen as a gift for the mayor. Liz bragged about Eileen's beauty, arousing the interest of the other group members and strengthening their resolve to complete the mission. Subsequently, the heinous acts unfolded as described earlier. Ore and Vincent asserted they did not directly participate in beating Alan or assaulting Eileen, but their statements lacked supporting evidence. Ore also confessed that after the crime, Sanchez was furious, learning that the group's actions were carried out recklessly, leaving traces behind. However, Sanchez reassured the group that everything could be resolved with an amount equivalent to a new car's value, attempting to calm their fears. On June 30th, news spread about a witness spotting a suspicious ambulance near the crime scene. Sanchez acted quickly. He summoned Ore, gave him 2,000 pesos, and ordered him to leave the city to avoid identification. His tone was more threatening than suggestive. Clearly, the so-called anti-drug operation involving the 4 officers above was merely a perfect cover to aid Ore's escape. During a search of Sanchez's estate, police discovered Eileen's belt and cigarette burns used to torture her. These pieces of evidence once again confirmed the direct connection between Sanchez and the horrific acts that took place. When the trial began, Sanchez always appeared confident. He brought along a statue of the Virgin Mary and wore his signature white tennis outfit. Arrogantly, Sanchez claimed in court that he could not have assaulted Eileen because, with my power and charm, all women would willingly come to me. Sanchez's statements outraged the public, but he maintained a defiant attitude in court, showing no remorse or fear. Other accomplices also provided conflicting defenses. Liz and Boy claimed they were coerced by Chief Cano to blame Sanchez. Deputy Chief Georgie testified that he was forced to commit the crimes, but avoided explaining the reasons. After 16 months of tense trials, on March 11, 1995, the court delivered its final verdict, rejecting all defenses from Sanchez and his accomplices. Sanchez and 5 accomplices were convicted of rape, murder, and kidnapping. Each received 7 consecutive life sentences, totaling 280 years. The judge also ordered the group to pay 12 million pesos in compensation to the victims' families, emphasizing the rarity and severity of their crimes. Upon hearing the verdict, Sanchez's calm and devout image instantly vanished. He angrily shouted in court, revealing his true nature. That same year, Sanchez was further implicated in a political assassination where Liz, Vincent, and 2 others acted under his orders. During the new trial, Vincent testified and identified accomplices, leading to an additional 2 life sentences for Sanchez and Liz. This meant Sanchez faced a total of 360 years in prison, with no chance of parole throughout his life. Nonetheless, Sanchez continued to deny all crimes, claiming it was a political conspiracy to destroy his reputation before the gubernatorial election. Sanchez's statements failed to convince the public. With undeniable evidence and a defiant attitude, he became a symbol of corrupted power and crime. The case of Antonio Sanchez and the deaths of Eileen Sarmenta and Alan Gomez left a stain on the legal and political history of the Philippines. It served not only as a warning about the corruption of power, but also as a testament to the bravery of those who fought to bring justice. This concludes the video. Thank you for watching this gripping story. If you found it engaging, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. 17 years of captivity and abuse turned a young, beautiful girl into someone mentally unstable. This is a true story that took place in a remote village in Inner Mongolia, China. The case was uncovered when a man accidentally heard a piercing scream from a mysterious underground house. When the police broke down the door of the underground house, a foul stench assaulted their senses. Before them lay a gaunt woman with disheveled hair and a filthy body, curled up on a dirt bed amidst a room filled with human waste and garbage. That woman was Cao Xiaoqing, a victim of human trafficking. How did a beautiful, talented young woman fall into this tragedy? Subscribe to our channel to delve deeper into the story and uncover the dark secrets behind it. It all began on a quiet morning in 2011, when the Inner Mongolia television station received a tip-off. The man reported that while passing through Yangshuliang village, he heard a woman's screams coming from an underground house. Curious, he approached to investigate, but was stopped by a fierce-looking man who emerged from the house, driving him away and warning him not to meddle. The aggressiveness only heightened his suspicion. The man remembered recent news reports about human trafficking cases. Trusting his instincts that this was no ordinary scream, he immediately called the television station for help. Upon receiving the tip, the station quickly dispatched reporter Wang Chiyue and a film crew to the scene. Upon arriving at Yangshuliang village, Wang Chiyue's team attracted the attention of the locals. Initially, the villagers were curious and friendly, gathering around to ask questions. However, when Wang Qiu openly discussed her purpose, the atmosphere abruptly shifted. A group of men leading the villagers approached and blocked the journalists, declaring that no one was allowed to touch the underground house. They warned the crew to leave immediately or face uncertain consequences. Faced with direct threats and rising tension, the crew had no choice but to withdraw. However, Wang Chiyue, with her keen instincts as an experienced journalist, was convinced that the village was hiding a horrific secret. Wang Chiyue promptly contacted the local police, presenting all the information she had gathered and persuading them to intervene. The police quickly assigned a team to accompany Wang Chiyue back to Yangshuliang village. They headed straight to the reported underground house, the source of the haunting screams. Upon arrival, they found the door locked with multiple thick chains, and all the windows sealed with black tape, blocking out any light. Just then, a chilling scream echoed from deep within the underground house, leaving everyone present stunned. It was a woman's scream, filled with panic and terror. The police swiftly broke the locks, and as the door swung open, a nauseating stench hit them, causing some to vomit. Inside, the floor was littered with trash and animal feces. In the center of the room was a dirt bed, where a woman with tangled hair and a filthy body lay curled up under a tattered blanket. The sight was horrifying. As they approached, the woman immediately recoiled like a cornered animal. Her fear was palpable in every movement. Recognizing the urgency, the police decided to remove the woman from the underground house and take her to the hospital. Just then, a large, hostile man emerged from behind the house. It was Liu Er-jen, the owner of the underground house. Despite the presence of police, he furiously tried to prevent them from taking the woman, shouting threats and attempting to grab the victim. However, this time, it was the police, not a bystander. Liu Er-jen was subdued, and the woman was safely removed from the underground house, under the hostile glares of villagers watching from a distance. After being taken to the hospital and undergoing a thorough examination, the doctors delivered tragic news. Due to her prolonged captivity, the woman had developed severe mental disorders. Currently, she couldn't even remember her name, let alone identify her home or family. During interrogation, Liu Er-jen only provided vague information, claiming that the woman's name was Cao Xing. The police doubted his statement, but had no immediate way to verify it. Fortunately, after being removed from captivity and no longer agitated, Cao Xiaoqing's condition began to show signs of improvement. Occasionally, she could utter a few clear words. During brief interactions, the police noticed she spoke with a strong Sichuan accent. This led them to suspect she might be from that area and had been abducted years ago. This assumption prompted Inner Mongolia police to quickly contact Sichuan police. They shared details of the case and began collaborating to investigate missing persons in Sichuan over the past decade. Meanwhile, media outlets in Inner Mongolia and Sichuan widely published information about Cao Xiaoqing, including articles with her photo and contact details. Additionally, the police expanded their search to the entire village of Yangshuliang, inspecting other houses for similar signs. 3 days later, a man claiming to be Cao Xiaoqing's brother contacted the hotline provided in the articles. This call became a crucial turning point in identifying her and unraveling the case. The man, named Cao Yongliang, revealed that his sister had been missing since 1991. Cao Xiaoqing had left home after an argument, and from that moment, the family had heard nothing about her. For 17 years, they searched tirelessly, but to no avail. Upon seeing the photo in the media, Cao Yongliang immediately recognized the woman in the article as his sister and contacted the police. From there, Inner Mongolia police quickly coordinated to arrange a meeting. Cao Yongliang and their parents hurried to Yangshuliang village, where Cao Xiaoqing was receiving treatment. When they reunited with Cao Xiaoqing, the family couldn't hold back their tears. Although she was now a frail, mentally unstable woman, they recognized her through familiar features. They couldn't imagine what she had endured over the past 17 years to end up in such a state. Based on the information gathered by the police, pieces of Cao Xiaoqing's life story gradually came together. She had once been an outstanding student. Her family lived in a poor rural area of Sichuan province, relying primarily on farming for their livelihood. With excellent academic performance, she had the potential to continue her studies and pursue a bright future. However, out of love for her parents, she decided to give it up. After graduating middle school, Cao Xiaoqing applied to work at a textile factory to support her family financially. But this decision was not accepted by her father, who constantly scolded her for not continuing her education. The relentless criticism and family pressure pushed Cao Xiaoqing to her limits. The stress and unresolved misunderstandings led to a heated argument, after which she left home in anger. Her family never expected that decision to become a tragic turning point. They lamented that if they had been more restrained that day, she might not have suffered a 17-year-long nightmare. As soon as she stepped out of the house, she became the target of a human trafficking group. They had been watching her and planned her abduction. In a secluded area, they approached her and used a chloroform-soaked cloth to render her unconscious. When she woke up, she found herself in a cramped vehicle, her hands and feet tightly bound. Do you know where they were taking her? To be sold. Her destination was Shu Family Village, a poor area in Inner Mongolia. This was a place where men who couldn't afford to marry often purchased women from human traffickers. The villagers hardly paid attention when a black car dragged a young girl out. For them, this had become a common occurrence. Her fate was sealed when a man named Shusan paid to take her as his wife. In the early days, Cao Xiaoqing repeatedly tried to escape, but Shusan, with the help of the villagers, confined her to a small house and monitored her every move. In the villagers' mindset, a woman bought into the village belonged to the community and had no right to escape. She became their property. Living in constant fear and under the lingering effects of the sedatives, her mental state deteriorated. She nearly lost the strength to resist. Less than a year later, she became pregnant with Shu San's child. This was the dream of the man who had paid for her. To him, it proved his investment was worthwhile. After learning about her pregnancy, Shu San became more complacent and reduced his surveillance. He believed that, like many other women in the village, she would eventually accept her fate and become obedient after giving birth. But Shu San never expected that. Despite her deteriorating mental state, a burning desire for freedom still lingered in Cao Xiaoqing's heart. She quietly waited for the right opportunity to escape this living hell. After Cao Xiaoqing became pregnant, Shu San grew complacent. He often took her out for walks, not only to let her relax, but also to flaunt his achievement to the villagers. In Shu family village, where most men were single, Shu San having a pregnant wife made him the center of admiration. However, because of his frequent boasting, a fellow villager from Sichuan, who happened to visit the village, recognized her. The man couldn't understand why the youngest daughter of a respectable family in Sichuan was here. The fellow villager grew suspicious, noticing her bewildered eyes and haggard appearance. These details prompted him to call her brother, Cao Yongliang, to verify. When the Cao family in Sichuan heard the news from the fellow villager, they were shocked beyond words. They had been searching for Cao Xiaoqing for years in vain. Cao Yongliang immediately obtained the address from the villager and, together with his parents, set off for Shu family village. That afternoon, Shu San returned from the fields to find 3 strangers standing in his yard. His face changed slightly upon hearing them call out Cao Xiaoqing's name. He quickly realized they were her family. However, instead of panicking, Shu San remained calm, pretended to be hospitable, invited them inside, and began to explain. Shu San brazenly claimed that he had married Cao Xiaoqing and that she was currently pregnant with his child. He arrogantly stated that she had been living peacefully and was treated well. Hearing Shu San's smug remarks, Cao Xiaoqing's father could no longer contain his anger. He stood up and confronted Shu San. "How could my daughter have willingly left home and married you in this place?" He firmly asserted that Cao Xiaoqing had been sold. His sharp accusation momentarily flustered Shu San, but he quickly regained composure, smiled, and responded that she was pregnant and close to giving birth. At this moment, due to his outdated mindset, Cao Xiaoqing's father made a critical mistake. He worried that if he brought his pregnant daughter home, she would face criticism and gossip from neighbors. He began to think it might be better for her to stay, avoiding shame for the family. Cao Xiaoqing broke down in tears, kneeling and begging her family to take her away from this place. She sobbed as she recounted the horrifying experiences she had endured. However, her parents, instead of reacting strongly, only checked if she showed signs of physical abuse. Seeing no visible injuries and noting her neat clothing, they began to believe Shu San might be trustworthy. Her father sighed, looked at her helplessly, and made what he thought was the best decision for her, to let her stay and continue her current life. Cao Xiaoqing's heart ached, but she was powerless to change anything. Before leaving, her father even gave Shu San 3,000 yuan to take good care of Cao Xiaoqing and her baby. After the Cao family left, Shu San, grateful for the 3,000 yuan, temporarily treated her better. He began to regard her as a legitimate wife and even allowed her to go out to buy groceries. After giving birth to a son, Cao Xiaoqing felt her life had temporarily stabilized, though her psychological scars remained. Ironically, one day, while shopping at the cooperative, she was suddenly abducted by another human trafficking group. They used sedatives to subdue her before selling her to someone else. When Shu San noticed that Cao Xiang didn't return, He began to worry. Initially, he considered reporting it to the police, but realized that an investigation could expose his involvement in human trafficking. Shusan comforted himself with the thought that she had already given him a son, fulfilling his goal of continuing the family line. He felt that the money he spent had been repaid. With this mindset, he decided not to search for her and called the Cao family to inform them that she had gone missing. Hearing that their daughter had disappeared again, Cao Shaoqing's father was heartbroken. He repeatedly questioned Shusan for more information, but received only vague answers. At that moment, he realized he had completely misjudged Shusan. The father's belated regret couldn't change anything. The Cao family resumed their search for her, which stretched on for another 15 years. During this time, Cao Shaoqing was taken to Erqianwan village. Her abductor, who became her new owner, was Xu Boxian, a poor farmer with a son named Xu Tam Mao, who had an intellectual disability. Xu Boxian's family struggled financially and couldn't afford a wife for Tam Mao. In desperation, he decided to abduct women from families involved in human trafficking, knowing they wouldn't dare report it to the police. One day, Xu Boxian saw Cao Shaoqing walking alone. He seized the opportunity to abduct her and bring her home. However, he didn't anticipate the trouble this would bring to his family. After her first sale, Cao Shaoqing's mind had already suffered severe damage. This new abduction only worsened her condition. She was not only unable to help the family with work, but would often go into fits of madness, attacking those around her. Xu Boxian's family, already burdened with caring for a son with intellectual disabilities, now found it unbearable to also look after a mentally unstable wife. Regretting his poor decision, Xu Boxian decided to sell Cao Shaoqing to ease the burden. He quickly spread the word, and soon, a man named Bang Sanbao from Luan Xiago village came forward. Bang Sanbao agreed to buy Cao Shaoqing for 4,000 yuan. Although many in the village felt it was unwise to spend such a large sum on a mentally unstable woman, Bang Sanbao was quite satisfied. Bang Sanbao didn't purchase Cao Shaoqing to live with her as a normal husband and wife, but rather to use her as a tool to satisfy the physical needs of the three men in the Bang family. After the death of Bang Sanbao's first wife, the family consisted of only 3 single men. They paid no attention to Cao Shaoqing's deteriorating mental state. When they had needs, they sought her out, and if dissatisfied, they would beat her mercilessly to vent their anger. Over time, Cao Shaoqing became pregnant. However, none of the 3 men in the Bang family knew who the father was. Despite this, the abuse continued, leading to her miscarriage. One day, seeing Cao Shaoqing lying motionless on the floor, covered in blood, Bang Sanbao grew frustrated. He decided to sell her without hesitation. This time, Bang Sanbao sold Cao Shaoqing to the Liu family in a neighboring village for the same price of 4,000 yuan. The Liu family had 2 sons, Liu Ergen and Liu San, both of whom had intellectual disabilities. Their father had only one wish, for his sons to produce offspring. As such, he didn't care about the identity or condition of the wife they bought. That night, the Liu family brought Cao Shaoqing home. She was bloodied and beaten to the point of miscarriage. This marked the beginning of yet another horrifying chapter in her life. Upon arrival at the Liu household, Cao Shaoqing's life entered a new darkness. To the family, it was normal for a husband to beat his wife. Cao Shaoqing tried to escape many times but was always caught. Enraged, the Liu family decided to strip her of her clothes, lock her in a dark underground house, and seal the door. Inside the underground house, there was only a dusty dirt bed, a tattered blanket, and 2 old pots. All her daily needs, from eating to hygiene, had to be carried out there. For 15 years of captivity, Cao Shaoqing had no freedom and was stripped of her dignity. During this time, she even gave birth to 2 children, a boy and a girl, for the Liu family. Despite her frequent mental breakdowns, Cao Shaoqing never gave up her desire to escape. When lucid, she would write the word "escape" all over the walls, as a reminder to herself not to give up. Hope appeared when her cries for help one day reached a villager from a neighboring village. Thanks to this person, the media, and the police, Cao Shaoqing was finally rescued. When she was reunited with her parents and brother after so many years, Cao Shaoqing broke down in tears. Learning of what she had endured, Cao Yongliang couldn't control his anger and punched Liu Ergen in the face. Cao Shaoqing's father was also racked with guilt. He regretted not taking her home that day, realizing she could have been spared these unimaginable horrors. As the Cao family prepared to leave Yangshuliang village, they were stopped by the Liu family and other villagers. Some loudly declared that Cao Shaoqing was a member of the village, and no one had the right to take her away. Fortunately, the presence of the police maintained order, ensuring she could leave that nightmare village and start a new life. As Cao Shaoqing stepped out of the Liu household with her family, the villagers' hateful eyes followed her, forming an invisible barrier of resentment. They whispered among themselves, with some shouting threats, treating her as a traitor. When violence failed to keep her, the eldest sister of the Liu family devised a cunning plan. She decided to play on emotions, using Cao Shaoqing's 2 children to make her stay. The 2 children, who had inherited intellectual disabilities from the Liu family, looked at her in confusion, unable to understand why their aunt told them to hug their mother. They wrapped their small arms tightly around Cao Shaoqing, tears streaming down their faces, crying repeatedly, "Mom, don't leave." Seeing her 2 children, Cao Shaoqing's heart felt torn apart. Despite the immense suffering she had endured, maternal love overwhelmed her. She wept, her legs unable to move forward. Thankfully, the police and reporters quickly intervened. They comforted the children, explaining that their mother needed time to recover and wouldn't forget them. Eventually, the children let go, allowing Cao Shaoqing to leave. After 17 years, Cao Shaoqing was finally free. However, the horrors she endured left an indelible scar. The image of the underground house, the beatings, and her captivity haunted her every night. In this case, the blame did not lie solely with the traffickers and the families who bought women. The ignorance and complicity of the villagers also played a significant role in the victims' suffering. Recognizing the severity of the issue, the Inner Mongolia Police Department launched a widespread investigation in remote areas. As a result, 127 women and 21 children who had been trafficked were rescued overnight. Meanwhile, the main suspects, including Liu Ergen, Xu San, and Bang Sanbao, were arrested. The Liu family, who had held Cao Shaoqing captive the longest, were prosecuted for human trafficking, illegal detention, and abuse. The case went to public trial, drawing widespread attention. The main perpetrators received harsh sentences, including life imprisonment. Other direct or indirect accomplices were sentenced to various terms ranging from 10 years to life imprisonment. This video concludes here. Thank you for following this gripping story. If you found this video engaging, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next captivating stories. In 2023, in Thailand, amidst the lively atmosphere of a grand wedding, the groom, Chaturong, ruthlessly killed the bride's entire family. Not stopping there, after committing the horrifying act, Chaturong pointed the gun at his head and ended his life in front of hundreds of guests. Once a famous disabled athlete, what drove a man praised as a symbol of resilience to become a murderer on the happiest day of his life? What conflicts lay behind this crime? Or was there a larger conspiracy at play? Don't take your eyes off the screen. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to follow this shocking case, where every detail will leave you stunned. Setting of the case: Nam Han, in the southwest of Udon Thani, Thailand, is a land that attracts many visitors with its pristine and peaceful nature. On November 25, 2023, the weather in Nam Han was ideal with cool and fresh air. In village number 1, usually quiet and serene, the atmosphere was livelier than ever as a grand wedding convoy entered the village. The groom, Chaturong, 29 years old, a famous disabled athlete, led the convoy with a radiant smile. Beside him was the bride, Kanchana, 44 years old, a beautiful cosmetologist. They wore stunning traditional Thai attire, creating the perfect image of a couple on their big day. After the customary wedding procession, a solemn religious ceremony was held at the bride's house. Prayers echoed, blessings conveyed hopes for a blissful married life, touching everyone present. The official wedding ceremony took place at 4 p.m. Under the soft twilight, the couple knelt before their parents, exchanged rings, and celebrated in the presence of relatives and friends. Everyone joined the joyous atmosphere, offering congratulations to the newlyweds. In fact, the couple had lived together for 3 years before officially marrying. The wedding was not only the culmination of a beautiful love story, but also the recognition of both families. As night fell, the evening banquet began. The scene was filled with shimmering lights as everyone enjoyed local delicacies. Laughter and chatter resounded, creating an unforgettable, lively atmosphere. However, amidst the cheerfulness, something unusual began to emerge. The groom Chaturang, who was expected to be the center of attention, suddenly became quiet, his gaze pensive. He sat silently, far from the radiant image of the morning. Some observant guests noticed his unusual behavior but assumed he had simply drunk too much. But they were all wrong. That night, at 11:30 p.m., amidst the bustling atmosphere, Chaturang suddenly stood up, said nothing, and walked straight out the door. This action caused the laughter to gradually subside, with all eyes turning to him in puzzlement. Murmurs arose among the guests. "What's wrong with him?" someone asked quietly. 2 considerate guests approached the bride, Kanchana, to inquire about the situation. Despite her calm demeanor, she couldn't hide the tension on her face. Suddenly, Chaturang reappeared. His expression had completely changed, no longer showing any signs of drunkenness or joy. Instead, there was a serious, icy look in his eyes. He slipped one hand into his pocket, walking slowly back into the wedding hall, causing all whispers to cease immediately. Amid everyone's suspense, he abruptly pulled his hand from his pocket, revealing a shiny handgun. Without giving anyone time to react, Chaturang coldly raised the gun, aimed directly at the bride, Kanchana, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot tore through the quiet night, plunging the entire venue into chaos. Within 20 short seconds, 12 shots were fired. The bride, Kanchana, fell amidst the guests' horror. Those nearby could not escape the Grim Reaper's scythe and fell one by one into pools of blood. A place once filled with laughter and blessings now echoed with terrified screams and frantic footsteps as everyone sought to flee the scene. Then, Chaturang slowly lowered the gun, his eyes vacant. He pointed the gun at his temple without hesitation and pulled the trigger. The final gunshot marked the end of the horrifying nightmare he had just created. Some guests, regaining a bit of composure, shakily took out their phones to call the police. The sound of sobbing echoed from a corner of the room, mingling with the faint noises of falling objects. The police received the report and immediately arrived at the scene. Medical teams were also deployed to assist the victims. The flashing lights of police cars illuminated a section of the sky, breaking the eerily quiet night. At the scene, chairs and tables were overturned, objects were shattered, and beer bottle shards were scattered everywhere. The ground was stained with dried blood, emitting a strong metallic smell. The most haunting image was the bodies of 5 victims lying at the scene. Each had fatal wounds. According to the initial investigation, the perpetrator was the groom, Chaturang. Among the victims, his body was the most unrecognizable due to the fatal self-inflicted wound. The bride, Kanchana, 44 years old, was the first victim. She was shot multiple times at close range. Her mother, 64 years old, lay nearby with a fatal chest wound. Kanchana's 38-year-old sister met the same tragic fate. 2 other guests were caught in the crossfire while trying to intervene. A 50-year-old man died instantly after being shot. Another, 28 years old, was shot in the left hip, causing severe spinal injuries, and was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Police recovered a total of 13 9mm shell casings at the scene, all fired from Chaturang's handgun. Preliminary verification revealed that Chaturang was not mentally stable. Allowing someone like him to legally own a gun was akin to placing a ticking time bomb in a crowd, ready to explode at any moment. With both the victims and the perpetrator present, the police's task was to determine the motive for the incident. Chaturang, 29 years old, was once a Marine stationed at a naval base in Chonburi province. In his early years of service, his future seemed promising. However, a horrific train accident changed everything. In that accident, Chaturang was run over by a train, losing his right leg. This shock forced him to retire, abandoning the military career he had worked so hard to achieve. Despite this major setback, Chaturang did not allow himself to collapse. He shifted to working as a forest ranger, protecting natural environments. It was during this work that he found another way to serve his country. With a strong physical foundation from his military service, Chaturong began participating in sports for people with disabilities. Rigorous training and strong willpower helped him transform from a disabled individual into an outstanding athlete. Chaturong showcased exceptional talent in swimming and shooting, gradually proving himself in major competitions. In 2022, at the 11th Southeast Asian Para Games in Indonesia, Chaturong competed for Thailand. He participated in swimming and archery events, earning a silver medal in swimming. This achievement made Chaturong a role model admired by many. His stories of resilience inspired countless people, both within and outside the country. In December 2023, just 1 week after his grand wedding, Chaturong was scheduled to compete in an international sports event for people with disabilities in Udon Thani province. Expected to bring home another prestigious medal, he became the center of attention for his family, friends, and fans. However, the incident shattered all the positive images he had built. As for the bride, Kanchana, 44 years old, she was a well-known cosmetologist in the area. She was also admired for her elegant beauty and bold fashion style. Kanchana had experienced a failed marriage and had 2 children with her ex-husband. Despite this, she didn't let her past bring her down. She looked forward to the future, seeking new happiness, and decided to remarry Chaturong despite their 15-year age gap. Before officially marrying, Chaturong and Kanchana had lived together for 3 years. During this time, Kanchana frequently visited her 2 children at her ex-husband's house. This was a natural act of responsibility for a mother. However, these visits became the seeds of tragedy. Chaturong began to feel uncomfortable with his fiancée's frequent interactions with her former family. His insecurities about age, their differing pasts, and his physical disability led Chaturong into a spiral of jealousy and suspicion. Every time Kanchana spoke with her ex-husband or another man, Chaturong silently fumed. He began monitoring her, noting small details to reinforce his belief that he was being betrayed. Although Kanchana repeatedly reassured and explained that her visits were solely for her children, Chaturong couldn't shake off his unease. He increasingly felt that his position in her heart was less significant than her ex-husband's. The growing doubts became an obsession in Chaturong's mind. The breaking point came when he discovered that Kanchana had visited her ex-husband's house alone without notifying him. This solidified his belief that his fiancée was deceiving him. Despite Chaturong's frequent expressions of discontent, Kanchana believed these conflicts were minor challenges in marriage. To her, visiting her children at her ex-husband's house was not clinging to the past, but fulfilling her duty as a mother. She thought that understanding and patience could help build a strong relationship with Chaturong. Over the 3 years of living together, Kanchana always tried to maintain a harmonious attitude and actively nurtured their new home. She never imagined her efforts couldn't fill the deep void of insecurity in Chaturong's heart. According to a close friend of Chaturong, despite achieving much success in his career and life, he always felt inferior compared to other men. He was insecure about the age gap between him and Kanchana, about her having been married before, and about her 2 children from her previous marriage. His physical disability from the accident further convinced him that he was inferior to able-bodied men. Each time he saw Kanchana radiant and confident, his feelings of inadequacy flared. He didn't see her as a supportive wife, but as someone who could leave him at any moment. When Kanchana visited her ex-husband's home to see her children, Chaturong couldn't suppress his jealousy. In his eyes, this wasn't just a mother's duty, but a sign she wanted to return to her past. These negative thoughts caused Chaturong to become withdrawn and unpredictable. He began to distance himself from Kanchana, silently observing her every move. A friend recounted that Chaturong once said, "She's too perfect. I'm nothing. One day, she'll leave me." He became obsessed with the idea that Kanchana would abandon him for someone better. These thoughts were entirely fabricated within his own mind. He changed from the open, strong man Kanchana once loved into a cold and distant person. Psychologists believe that if Kanchana had recognized Chaturong's inner struggles and addressed them in time, this tragedy might have been averted. However, the situation had spiraled out of control. According to a wedding guest who was close to the bride, Chaturong and Kanchana had a heated argument the evening before the tragedy. Initially, they tried to speak softly to avoid disturbing the guests, but emotions flared, and they unconsciously raised their voices, drawing attention from those around them. Kanchana appeared calm but resolute, while Chaturong's face turned red with extreme anger. The argument only ended when they realized others were watching and stopped to avoid embarrassment. The guest recounted that the argument was about the wedding dowry. Chaturong had asked Kanchana to return part of the dowry money to help cover wedding expenses as a way of showing her commitment to their marriage. This request angered Kanchana, and she flatly refused, considering it an insult to her and her family. Her refusal made Chaturong feel belittled. After hearing Kanchana's response, Chaturong said nothing more, but inside, his anger and sense of humiliation simmered like a fire ready to erupt. Negative thoughts in Chaturong's mind became distorted. He convinced himself that Kanchana didn't value him and that she would leave him for a better man. Fueled by alcohol and anger, Chaturong replayed every action and word of Kanchana's in his mind, all twisted by his blind jealousy. The thought, "If she leaves me, no one else will have her," began haunting him like a curse. He became obsessed with keeping Kanchana forever, no matter the cost. The argument was the final straw. Chaturong decided to carry out what he saw as the only way to free himself. Late at night, as everyone immersed themselves in the joyous wedding atmosphere, Chaturong left the banquet table and quietly stepped outside to prepare for his plan. Police began investigating the origins of the gun used by Chaturong. Through verification, they discovered that the gun and all its ammunition had been legally purchased in France, where he had visited for an international sports competition. The fact that he legally owned a gun and ammunition surprised many. As someone who enjoyed shooting since his time in the military, Chaturong often carried a weapon as a habit and for a sense of security. Images from the crime scene showed that Chaturong's actions were completely deliberate, with no hesitation or emotion. Each shot was executed with precision, showcasing his professional shooting skills. Police determined that his actions were not impulsive, but meticulously planned. Every shot was calculated to leave no room for resistance from the victims. The method used by Chaturong far exceeded the bounds of normal behavior. He remained undeterred, even calmly ending his own life after murdering Kanchana and the other victims. Public opinion began questioning Chaturong's mental state. Did he suffer from a mental disorder that led to such extreme behavior? Or was this the result of years of accumulated psychological pressure? Psychologists noted that Chaturong's behavior defied normal logic. Using a gun to commit murder and suicide in the same night indicated severe psychological instability. However, as Chaturong had taken his own life, a psychological evaluation could not be conducted to determine whether he had any mental disorders. These questions will remain unanswered mysteries. This video ends here. Thank you for following this gripping story. If you found it intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any upcoming exciting stories.